You know, anti-Semitism has a lot to do with how people handle failure. See, in personal development, every coach knows that how we respond to challenges determines our lives. Success seldom comes easily, and when things don't work out, most of us give up. We hate rejection and failure, so we make excuses and blame someone else.
Now that's dangerous if it becomes envy of successful people. The German philosopher Goethe said there is but one step from envy to hate. The German psychologist Erich Fromm said, the aim of envy is to destroy. And Bertrand Russell, the British intellectual, said, the envious person wishes to inflict misfortune on others.
Take Adolf Hitler. What few people know is that before he was in politics, he was homeless. He lived in Vienna, Austria in a shelter. He had wanted to be an artist, but was rejected from art school twice.
So he did odd jobs like painting postcards, but he never made much money. And it was in that time when he felt like a failure that he developed some of the ideas in his book Mein Kampf. For example, this line, "The houses the Jews lived in were enormous and luxurious. I realized that the owners were not involved in any honest trade. They were exploiting others."
But in fact, the Jews of Germany and Austria were central to the society and the economy. They were scientists and industrialists and professionals. They made huge contributions. Jewish economists helped save the German currency after World War I.
That's right. They were hard workers and they were big supporters of the arts. They owned galleries, they were art dealers and collectors. For over 100 years, Vienna and Berlin were the global centers of science and culture. Anyone wanting to study these fields had to speak German. And the Jews were a big part of that world. They were authors and playwrights and composers. Mahler and Schoenberg were celebrated around the world.
In psychology, Freud was causing a revolution. Einstein was doing the same in physics. It was an exciting time, and Hitler would have longed to have been a part of it. But he was penniless. He couldn't see the contribution of the Jews, the opportunities they created for all Europeans, and he never considered their struggles.
Most Jews were not successful. You know, Einstein was also rejected from university and he couldn't even get a teaching job. And Freud, it took years for him to be accepted.
Behind most success is struggle, but Hitler could only feel envy, and his envy became hatred. And since the aim of envy is to destroy and inflict misfortune, he destroyed the Jewish communities of Europe, but he also destroyed Europe. And he inflicted misfortune on hundreds of millions of people, not just the Jews.
Yeah, Germany lost its place as the world's cultural and intellectual center. Its best minds, both Jewish and Christian, went to the US and helped create the Apollo program and NASA and Broadway and Hollywood and Wall Street. The new global center for science and culture was America.
And the moral stain of World War II on the European conscience created a pendulum swing towards ultra-compassionate humanitarianism, such an aversion to any sign of racism that they've allowed in millions of illegal migrants, many with Islamist sympathies. So the current levels of violence and terrorism could well be traced back to Hitler's impact on history.
So what about all the other anti-Semitic bigots? Well, take Hamas. One man who knows them from the inside is Mossab Hassan Youssef. He was in Hamas. His father was one of the founders. He knows them better than anyone. And in an interview, he was asked, what's the fundamental reason for the deep hatred Hamas has for the Jewish people? And Mossab answered without hesitation, if you want to look at the fundamental problem, it's envy.
And because the aim of envy is to destroy, Hamas destroyed many lives in the villages around Gaza. But they also destroyed Gaza. Mossab said it's the same for anti-Semites in Western countries. He said, and I quote, many people who are anti-establishment, anti-bankers, anti-Zionists, etc., they create for themselves someone to blame for their failure.
But of course, no one really admits to being envious. They hide these embarrassing feelings behind an acceptable moral facade. They say they're fighting against evil oppressors or for the glory of religion. It sounds better than saying, I'm just a jealous loser.
Ignore the moral facade. Anti-Semitism is the bigotry of the loser, and if left unchecked, it may well destroy everything you love.